All right, it's Friday. You guys are punching out. We are logging off and punching into drafts here for the Week 16 slate. This is off and on the clock. I'm Pete. We got the BadgeBros here. We're going to get you ready for all of the action on Sunday. Strategy for Battle Royale. We'll build some pick'em entries as well, and maybe even touch on this Christmas slate. Let's get to it, boys. All right, we got John Warner. We got Nez broadcasting from a daycare. How many little ones are you taking care of today, Nez?
We've got two coming over. Yeah. Two beautiful nieces. They are such a handful, but it's fun. This is actually my old bedroom. I say this every time I do a show in here, but it's completely been taken over. You see this beautiful artwork on the wall here. Kind of looks like an NFT a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I should mint this. What do you think? You think we could we could rug some folks with this thing or what?
It looks good. Yeah, it does look like a Cooter Doodle's avatar right there over your shoulder. Do you have, more respect for me of like what it's like to have to, always be drafting around kids and taking care of them? Do you now have a newfound respect for what us dads go through trying to get our action in on these slates?
Pete, I don't want to butter you up too much. I have a lot of respect for you. This is even as is.
Only through that lens, Des.
That was an absolute layup to just go no.
I can't. Once you have, like, my niece is 5 and it takes so much energy out of me to like give her the attention that she needs to play and everything. Like, I want to be I'm not trying, I drafted like once while she was here. She's like, why are you on your phone? I'm like, okay, hit the plane. Like, it's done. It
push
cannot
the
be
plane.
Done. It's too hard.
There you go. Push the plane, play with the kid. The new motto here.
Yeah. Be present for the love of God. One time.
John,
what used to be up on those walls? Like when you were a kid, like, were you a poster guy? Like, what was up there?
So I still have this like thing. This is from an East Bay magazine. It's like the School of Rock. Yeah. It's like a Spalding ad. I had a lot of Steelers stuff up here. Very few people will remember this name. If you remember this name, you need your brain checked. But I had a Steelers flag hung up with Brian St. Pierre signature on the flag. Like, third string quarterback. I don't know. That's the only guy I could get signing stuff at the training camp that I went to. Lot of Pittsburgh stuff for sure. And there used to be a sick, like you'd put like stuff like on the, I don't know what you would call that, like on the ceiling there. And it used to be like different like grips of pitches. It was really dope. And then I grew up and then they took it down. Yeah. It was very much a boys' room. But now it's the complete opposite.
John, weren't you saying you have kind of like poker hand rages still stickered onto your ceiling? And you just kind of read those as you go to bed?
So at one point in time, my dead ass had them above the monitors, like, because, maybe it was like a 10-foot ceiling or whatever. I had 4 feet worth of predetermined ranges for spots, like just laminated and postered up.
Do it.
Yeah, there you go. Actually.
Incredible.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Should we dig in here? Maybe start as usual, kind of just overview. I will say, I mean, I don't have the volume in that I normally do at this point, but having just talked with Reeves, having done a few battle royales earlier today, it is one of those wide open slates. I don't even know. We've had some of those weeks earlier this year where we're like, oh, it's a gross slate. But even on those, there were some attractive high-end options, I feel like. I mean, this slate to me feels most devoid of like really slam dunk plays than I can remember in a long time.
Yeah, I think that's
I would agree with that.
Magnified by like the Q tag on Tyreek, and then the fact that there's basically that one highlight game environment, and then you look at differentiating projection models, and we actually have CeeDee Lamb over Tyreek in a couple of them. So there's also some ambiguity amongst those like big 4 wide receivers. But then after that, I think that's why Justin Fields is pushing up so high this week, is because nobody wants to make a concerted effort to get over the field at pick like 5, 6, 7, other than if it's just Justin Fields.
Yep. It's so funny, right? Because I've done the thing where I've taken I've tried it both ways, like of taking like Fields first or Moore. I've only done like 6 or 7 of these. I haven't been able to get the Fields DJ Moore stack once. Like these rooms won't even let you get it, and their
Wow.
ADPs look as if you should be able to get it.
Yeah, it was free
people
early in the week.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
now
and I think
it's
people
like,
see Pete in there and they do something else. They kind of freak out and
Yeah,
they panic. I'm telling you, I've been there. Sorry, John. Go ahead.
no, I mean, like we talked about it on like Wednesday a little bit, and we did one stream together or one draft together, Hayden and I, and we were able to obtain it from the 104. That era's gone because Fields was at like 12 early in the week, and now he's at like 6. And the only
Yeah.
way you can ever get it is if DJ Moore happens to, if someone pushes up Rachaad White over DJ Moore, and then you tap it at the 106 Moore plus Field. That's basically the only path.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, he is. I was talking about this with Reeves from a redacted perspective, but because he is by far and away the best quarterback, he's going to get rostered and probably overdrafted at a clip disproportionate to his odds of actually, being in the optimal. And I think that makes it an interesting dynamic. And then you really think through in these battle royales, and I'm not saying he's a bad click. Like I'm going to have some of him for sure, but it's like people are going to try to stack him up with DJ Moore. If you miss on DJ Moore, they're going to stack him up with Cole Kmet. There's no like even cheeky running back stacks to really do with him, So the ways that you actually use him it's hard. Not to mention, then Trey McBride becomes the most obvious bring back there. He's the best tight end play on the slate, and those lineups just build themselves. And it's like, how many combos are we going to see of a Justin Fields stack with a Trey McBride bring back this week?
I can tell you,
point.
I've probably built 20 of them. Like I'm really exploitative right now. And one of the things that I was really enjoying doing from the back end of the draft board was that Fields plus McBride and pushing up McBride's ADP, and then mix and match game environments in the flex positions of like the scroll the F down variety. I was doing a lot of those two plus Jonathan Taylor and Pittman, and then just doing whatever with the last 2 spots. So I have a lot of lineups that look really similar.
Yeah. What about you, Nez? Are you willing to kind of lean into that just because it is such an incredible spot, or do you want to try to zag a bit?
I'm leaning more towards zagging right now. I did quite a bit in the hurry up. I did a lot of the Fields versus Fields DJ Moore pairing. I got a lot in there. But it does feel like this does have a path to maybe not failing, but not being the game that you have to have pretty easily. And the way that they're being drafted, it just doesn't quite reflect that. So it's tough because this is such an ambiguous slate right now, where in the last 3 weeks, it seemed pretty clear like what games to target and where you should and could get exploitative. And this week it just doesn't feel like those have to have it type of pieces that are going to make up, my 30% of my portfolio this week. It's been a lot more letting the board fall to me and getting what comes. And I don't like that. I like knowing what I want in these rooms, and I'm not quite feeling like that this week. But Fields, DJ Moore, McBride is like the clearest way to the clearest stack to build around at the moment. But because it's so clear, it makes me want to deviate a little bit.
Yeah, and I think I'm way more willing to just keep ripping it in on McBride than I am always trying to chase like Fields DJM, just because I do think, I mean, there's some good tight end plays, Ingram and
Some
Njoku.
really good tight end plays.
Yeah, but I mean, McBride on a slate like this, I think he should be going like where Kelsey and Andrews used to go in these, right? Where they'd be like 1-4, 1-5s, like a big positional edge advantage. I mean, his floor ceiling right now is insane. And I'm not doing myself any favors of trying to get cheaper Trey McBride going forward, but like I'm willing to play him as a one-off, not even involved in that game environment, basically.
I have I did 26 drafts this morning. I have 52% Trey McBride. So I'm in lockstep with you there, where it doesn't have to be revolving around that game. That can just be like the one-off piece from there. And actually, I kind of low key like some other games on the slate more than going there. Like I'm really in on the drunk match of the weekend being Colts Falcons. Like I've been taking every combination of pieces as far down as Josh Downs from that one.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because, I was like reading Pat Thorman's pace column over at ETR, and this was the most pace up games I've seen him do. He had 5 of them as pace up, and that Chicago game isn't even one of them.
Wow.
So yeah, so there's a lot of good ones. I mean, I'll just list them off. It's the Colts Falcons game that John just referenced. You got the Detroit Vikings game. You got the Browns and Texans game, and you got the Bucks and Jags game, and of course Miami and Dallas. So like, there's a lot of ways you can go. So it's weird that it's like almost counterintuitive that it's like a gross slate, and yet a lot of these environments could get very drunk, like John's explaining.
I haven't even mentioned like the highest total on the slate yet on the show with Cowboys and Dolphins. Really,
yeah.
I mean, that's it's kind of interesting the way that this the ADP is shaking out.
We're really talking ourselves into just liking this slate in a vacuum. Like we kind of just started with not so sure, like blah blah blah. But then when you put into like factor, like you mentioned the Texans Browns game, like that traditionally wouldn't be like a shootout environment that we're looking to get to, but like the Browns pass rate, like neutral pass rate, has been the highest in the league over the last 4 weeks. And it's kind of like, well, maybe we should just be getting to that game environment and stuff. And we didn't even mention one of my favorite spots in terms of ADP price point and relative ability to explode is getting to the Seahawks right now. Like, I think the Seahawks could just jump all over that Tennessee secondary that is absolutely decimated. It was bad at the best of times this year, and it is so hurt right now. It's like I'm going to keep doing back stacks when I miss out on the Fields McBride at the front end with like Geno Lockett or like Geno DK, Geno Walker, whatever on the back end. Walker obviously mispracticed twice this week, which isn't great. And it's a shoulder, which is different than what he's had in the past. But I'm still getting there.
Yeah, I like that. When I was kind of looking at my stuff, he barely missed my cut, Tyler Lockett, to include in Hidden Gems. I think both him and JSN fit that bill of kind of really nice pivot off of DK. DK's in a great spot. I was reading the walkthrough. I know Karain really likes this spot for DK. Has been, leading them on all those, first read throws, but I think it's a good spot for the entire passing game. And then I love DeAndre Hopkins on the other side. He's not getting drafted in all of these. I don't really think it's that big of a difference between Levis or Tannehill for him, just with how massive his target share is. So yeah, I'm definitely with you on being interested in this game.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the big time throws aren't there without Levis, but I don't know, the targets of like just familiarity from a guy like a veteran guy like Tanny makes sense.
Not that we're taking either of Levis or Tanny, but it is kind of a wrinkle that Levis is practicing today and now is officially questionable.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, isn't that the other kind of meta for this slate is there's a lot of injury situations like it, and I think maybe I'm feeling a little burned from like the Tyreek Hill late swap thing and how, how that ends up like playing out where you set your ranks. But it's like, how I attack, the Jags, because I really want to attack this Bucs secondary again. But I want to know who the quarterback is, because it's like, am I taking these guys as one-offs or am I stacking them up with Lawrence? How are we attacking this spot, like you said, with Hopkins? Because I might have interest in stacking him with Levis and stuff like that. So it is a little harder this week, I think, with some of that uncertainty injury-wise.
The other one I'd throw in there, Pete, is a spot that I think most of us would want to be getting to is the Packers again this week. So in the same way that Trevor Lawrence has the Q tag and, going to be missing Jay Jones, blah, 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 and it's hard to like make the decision there, we would be jumping up and down to get to Jaden Reed right now. I think I at least I would be, especially at his current price point. And I don't know, same thing. Like people just, got burned by the Q last week and don't want to ape into that variance, I guess. Because I genuinely think he's really questionable to play.
I do too. I'm a little bit more spooked. I mean, I've been wanting to pile in on Jordan Love, I'm worried about kind of like this being a low passing volume spot for them. The Panthers, I mean, Reeves just was like, the Panthers are kind of low key, a sneaky, decent defense. And then when you do attack them, you do it through the ground. So I don't know. Love has been efficient, but then when you combine that with this game environment and so many of his weapons being banged up or out, I'm just like a little less excited. And one of my BBM teams, Love is my only viable quarterback really this week, and I'm pretty worried about it. I guess is my take.
Did anyone check? I did it. I only have one remaining BBM team, and I checked pods like right before we jumped on here just to see. And I think I ran pretty pure on the old influencer pod there because no one in the pod had Puka or Kyron.
Wow.
In my current situation. Yeah. And then
what about Carmageddon?
Last night. I think there was one car team with Jawan Johnson and Shaheed. So that probably leader in the clubhouse there.
One of mine, I have a Car Olave Jawan team that I feel pretty good. Like when you hit on, and Car like saved my ass because I think it was a Ritter Howell team. Or no, it was like a Bryce Young. It was shitty quarterbacks. And I was like, one of you is going to need to pull a fucking rabbit out of your hat. And Derek Carr was like, I got you, bro.
It didn't look like it was coming in the first half.
No, it did not. And how did I end up with four Derek Carr teams in my pod? My Venmo to Neumy must have got lost in the mail. Teams? Can you believe that?
That's
how
sick,
are that many
dude.
Derek Carr teams alive?
That's sick. You should be pounding down Rudman's door right now, ready to fight him.
Yeah. I'll take Rudman on for sure.
Actually, while we're on it for a second here, the real pressing question from the top of the hour here, Go Cards dropped it into start here was, did anyone have anyone alive in the BadgeBros backyard brawl?
No. I'm a bit of a fraud. I didn't even get a team in because that contest filled on stream.
You didn't get one in your own contest?
Can you believe that?
Tough seed.
Oh man.
I feel bad. I don't think I got any in there either.
Dude, it filled so fast. It was insane. I have an Undercat team, which I thought that contest was super fun. I hope they do that.
I have one Undercat team too.
That contest ruled. That was awesome.
Yeah. All right, let's get back on track here. We were talking about Packers, Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, we got the AJ Dillon definitive Q tag today, so it was hasn't practiced this week and stuff like that. You talked about attacking it through the ground. I mean, Aaron Jones is one of the highest positive regression candidates based on the usage that he had last week. You give him one more week of health plus the ground there. That's a really nice. Not even scroll the F down anymore, but really nice 6th-round pick right now.
Yeah. I think that's a good call there for sure. And I think things are trending in the right direction. I guess it's like, if Dillon plays, are you less into Aaron Jones or are you fine either way?
I think I'm fine. I mean, maybe a little bit of that goal line equity goes away and whatnot. I mean, they worked in Patrick Taylor a good amount last week. It was Taylor, right? Whoever the backup.
That's true.
I think I like Aaron Jones either way as well. Another week, I mean, he can seemingly, hopefully, only get healthier. I know he's been banged up literally all season, but there's got to be some sort of progressive load to his workload. Yeah. They need to win this game. If Jaden Reed sits, I think that is beneficial to more those targets and or carries, because Jaden Reed does a little bit of everything toward Aaron Jones here. The total is obviously atrocious, but I'm still going to look at Jesus Christ, Aaron Jones in this matchup because his ADP is so late. And I mean, just as far as this slate goes, I know I don't really have a target as far as a game goes, and just seeing what game falls to me. I do think the meta right now is, getting your wide receivers early still though, because running back is so wide open. QB is essentially Fields, Dak, or bust. And, I'm becoming more and more comfortable with doing a naked Tua on this slate if I miss out on his pass catchers. Just, in hopes of just getting those raw points. I know it doesn't feel good, but, he still has a pretty damn high ceiling and a 50-point total here. So I'm totally fine with it.
Nez and naked premium quarterback. Never thought I'd hear that combo again, eh?
That's the Nez meta. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's only my meta.
Uh-huh.
I mean, go ahead, John.
No, sorry. Just while we were on the Aaron Jones thing, I just looked it up here. He only played 50%. He had 17 touches. 4 of them were receptions. He only played 50% of the snaps, even without A.J. Dillon. And Patrick Taylor had 43 there. So, I mean, like the usage and advanced stats still support him being like a really nice play, despite not being like your prototypical 70% snap share guy, which that expected stat would most likely align with. So I think it's kind of almost encouraging towards Aaron Jones that he had the volume on such low usage, or had you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think just because, we were a bunch of people got on him late last week, doesn't really pay off. I like the idea of going back to him here, and the matchup is working in your favor as well. I do think it's, I would like to talk about the other running back in this game who I think might even be more interesting to me in Chuba Hubbard. I mean, just getting 20 plus carries a game. Targets aren't quite there, but you can run on Green Bay. They fully turned over the backfield to him, and he was one of my hidden gems guys this week, getting drafted in, at least less than 20%, maybe even less than that of these battle royales. I think he's an awesome late click.
He is, yeah, definitely one of the best running backs that you can take late. I've cycled him in quite a bit, and this Packers are one of those teams where one of the running back targets that we look for. Who's running backs against the Packers has been a meta for us for pretty much the whole season. This Panthers team is not going to get creative offensively. I think we can say that with some definitive, with some definitivity there. So, yeah, sign me up for 20 touches for Chuba on this slate. No question.
Yeah, I like that in general. Like I think the good way to frame this slate is like I'm funneling to 1-2-2-1s because there's good gross in quotations of volume at the running back position that is leverage. So Chuba is obviously one of that variety. We hit on Aaron Jones, who's getting pushed a little bit more, but like David Montgomery's back there, James Conner's back there, Devin Singletary's back there, Jerome Ford's back there. And like all those guys are trending in the direction of being like potential 20 plus touch guys this weekend. And the only one getting steamed is Ty Chandler.
Yeah.
Now we have the Madison queue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. As Reeves poured some cold water on the Chandler stuff when I was just talking to him. Obviously, the ownership on Redacted factors into that for him, right. But he doesn't necessarily love this spot for them either, and much prefers playing this through the Vikings passing game. I still think he's a good click if he stays under, like 20%. But if he does get steamed up, then I do think I would much rather, play Chuba, or I'm taking a guy in that range like Devon Achane, who's also getting drafted a bunch, but I think just has a much, much higher ceiling.
I like that. I saw someone pretty sharp this morning, or I saw a pretty sharp construction this morning from a player that I didn't know, where they paired Mostert and Achane together on a double stack from Dak. So a Dak, Ferg, CeeDee Lamb, and then 2 running backs from the Miami side.
Yeah,
that's fun. I like that imagination play.
Well, and it's like you're just trying to run it back James Cook style against this Cowboys team, right? Another home team against this reeling Cowboys squad, and you got the talent. Like Achane is like a pretty good proxy for what James Cook has been doing. Maybe they don't give him as much interior rushing stuff, but if the quotes are to be believed, I know the Coach Speak Index tweet was circulating today about Mike McDaniels talking about Achane feeling a little more comfortable with his health, ramping him up. And I think you could argue Mostert's health is actually trending in kind of the opposite direction. He's been more banged up of late. I think I'm going to end up, when I start ripping off a bunch of drafts today and tomorrow, I think I'm going to end up very heavy on Achane.
Yeah. He feels great. I think it's like an interesting discussion. You were talking about Ty Chandler and, how much is he actually going to be drafted in these contests? We finally have this battle royale data that's been released, and we can kind of, surmise what we think drafted percentage will be. I know week 1 is like different because there's a lot of, ambiguity, and we don't know who's who the best plays really are at that time. But, you know, RB6 is ADP 25, and we started to see a pretty strong drop off of drafted percentage at around like ADP like 27. So the running back landscape is just truly, truly so wide open. And Achane at ADP 29, I think definitely represents, in my opinion, like 50% drafted, you know, maybe even less, which is like shocking on a slate like this. I'm not sure if you've seen different, John, but like, man, Achane feels fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to dive into that data. For everyone who doesn't know what we're referencing right now, it's available on Underdog Network there. They released the Battle Royale data that was for every contest this year, which was great. I coined it on Wednesday that we were in the before data era, and now we're in the after data era, and it's going to be very interesting to see how the game dynamic changes. For me, the running back thing is interesting because you have to factor in like the context of the week as well and the context of the slate, because that will determine who was funneling the flex position to what position. You know what I mean? So I think the ADP will be like more meaningful on like certain slates that compare to similar slates of that variety. Does that make sense? So it won't be like a one for one in terms of like 1 week, the onesies positions, like QB6 will be like 55%, but then QB6 on another slate that's like larger or, 13 versus 9 games or whatever will actually be 32%. So it's going to be a very interesting barometer to like quantify it by like slate size and stuff. I don't know. What's your guys' favorite use case for the data stuff?
That is my personal favorite use case as far as having a larger data set for dialing in that ADP. And I mean, another example that was very relevant to last week's slate. I mean, the team who shipped Battle Royale, it was on a swap to Jalen Waddle. And I would have otherwise looked at Jalen Waddle's ADP. Wasn't it like 27? And I would have assumed that ADP would indicate he's selected in over 80% of drafts based on like the data that I've seen. And so I was like, man, but I also got a ton of Waddle swaps. I didn't go through and do the math, but just anecdotally, I would say I was getting like 30 to 35% of my REAK teams swapped to Waddle, which means like from my sample set that he was getting drafted in less than 60 to 70% of contests, which is kind of crazy. And I think it does go to some of the slate specific context that John is hinting at. And you also had to add in some soft science of people didn't like this matchup. They didn't like this game. They were worried about the weather. So not all of these ADPs are necessarily created equal. I'm really curious what you're pulling up here, because I've been hoping people have already been digging into this more.
Yeah, so this is Ryan Heath, who put together just week 1 and quantified it, right? So as you're alluding to there, maybe like we could compare Devonta Smith at a 26.7 ADP that week, probably pretty close to what, you know what, DJ Moore might even be a better example at like 29, what Waddle's actual one from last week would have come in. And the drafted percentage was only 66%. Whereas I think in our minds, it would have been like 85 or 90, as you're alluding to, Pete. So he did this for week 1. I think it's going to be a really cool exercise to do this and then cross-reference it to the sample size we were working with in the Deposit Kingdom with Chad's data. I bet you Chad's data is going to be far more actionable than we initially thought, like back in the day, even if we were just collecting like 200 drafts. It's going to be very interesting to,
I also think it, to your point about the Chad stuff, because I do think it was incredibly valuable, that being directionally accurate, like I think it's okay to have a wider error band on this stuff compared to say like Redacted, where you have 9 roster spots and like the difference between 5 and 10% or 10 to 20 can be really massive. Whereas here you're like, I'm generally in my mind bucketing these guys, right? Like this guy's never getting drafted. This guy's always getting drafted, or this guy's getting drafted like less than half of the time. Like if you're falling in that bucket, because only 6 spots are taken and because almost always your first 3 picks are being drafted in 100% of contests, it's not as important, I think, to be hyper granular and correct on it. You just need to generally know which type of archetype bucket are these guys falling into, and then recognizing that the guys who are getting drafted at the very end, but in like 75 to 100%, those are the most fragile picks in these contests.
Yeah, this is fully going to lead to the Battle Royale manifesto and the bucketing thesis of ADPs and ownership. Like,
look at how early
the
we
next
are in this
evolution.
contest too, by the way. Look at this
How
reply.
so?
What is Battle Royale and why am I seeing it everywhere on here? We are so early, boys. That's awesome.
That is great. That is very good. Yeah, and then there's like some of the slate contextual stuff will be like Joe Burrow probably would have been like quarterback 2 or 3 on this slate, but he had the Q tag and was genuinely, we weren't certain he was going to play in week 1. So then quantifying what a Q tag Joe Burrow looks like versus like normal Joe Burrow in week 4, and like just looking through some of that kind of like sicko lens shit. It's gonna be a lot of fun to mess around with.
For sure. Yeah. And it'll be, it's going to be so fascinating because I'm curious to see what the learning curve is for the player pool. I think anyone hanging around these parts, watching BadgeBros, all of that good stuff is going to be very quick on the learning curve, but I still fight it myself. Even someone like I see it so clearly, I know it, and still the anchoring effect is just so massive, and it's not replicated on redacted, right? Where you basically have this like blank slate, and you don't see it. Whereas like on Underdog, you seeing those ADPs, it is so tethering the way it works psychologically that I do think it'll take longer for people to disassociate from that ADP.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more on that one. I'd love to ask you guys, like, what do you think the thesis that we've had up until this point is going to prove most correct? And what do you think the thesis we've had up until this point will prove most wrong in terms of like ROI from the data?
Nez?
I mean, I would love, I mean, it's pretty easy to like get an idea of like CLV to ROI, right? Like that would be really easy to find
Do you
out.
think
Would
it
it
matters?
not? Like, do I think it matters? No. I think it's going to be relatively, on par as far as like, close to 0. You may see a couple outliers, but I think I think what you're going to see more is like multiple scrolling downs, just like not having the hit rate that, I mean, yeah, obviously when you do get exploitative and take these lower drafted guys, you are understanding that the ROI is probably lower, but when you do hit, it is the easier path to first. But it would be interesting to see how often that has actually come to fruition and if there is any viability to that.
I think the one I've been thinking about a lot lately that I think we're going to discover, like, how now with simming out, salary cap lineups and showing you these are the top lineups based on ROI. I think if we were able to sim out lineups for battle royales, we will end up being stunned at how little correlation there is outside of just QB and one pass catcher. I think you'll see a ton of QB, one pass catcher, and I think you're going to see virtually no correlation. And this is something I'm still battling myself, going back to those like psychological tendencies that I'm having to fight off against. But I really don't think it's that important.
I think we're going to be that was my number one takeaway, that we're overstacking and we're over running back right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
which creates
I'm Mr. One-off QB here. Of course. I could have told you guys that.
Yeah, you're ahead of it.
You don't need a computer to tell you that.
I think the most positive correlation we're going to see, though, outside of like the obvious single one-to-one pass catcher, is same team running back, same team wide receiver.
And that one has just popped up in a ton of winning lineups this year.
And whether that's like results oriented from just a 1-year sample, and this is kind of like an outlier year where we have like some pretty extreme scoring offenses, and then we have kind of like bottom of the barrel ones who hadn't scored as many touchdowns as Miami scored in 1 week in the first 5 weeks. Maybe there's a little bit of noise there, but I do think we're going to note that the positive correlation between starting running back and starting wide receiver from the same team is going to be something that we should have been targeting all along.
And just to like explain why, like, correlation is still important, obviously, but I think like a couple things happen, right? Where those correlations are going to catch more ownership, probably disproportionate to the rate that they actually hit in the optimal. And in these specifically super large field contests, I mean, we talk about this on redacted, right? Like stacking in the bomb is a lot different than stacking in battle royale. where like I'm thinking back to my dumbass rolling out some Stafford double stacks with like Puka and Cooper Kupp last week, where it's like, I think you do that into bomb completely fine, or it was that week against the Commanders. Whereas when you're doing that, like their 95th, 98th percentile outcomes are negatively correlated. When Cooper Kupp has the nuke game, like Puka, it's going to be hard for him to have that. And I'm not saying you can't thread that needle, but I do think when you're trying to get first in top heavy contests, like that stuff ends up mattering, and that negative correlation is like actually something you should be embracing in steering away from those kind of double stacks.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you there. The one thing that I did from like I don't know if it was for peace of mind or whatever last year, when the DeBomb was only 8 max and it was early in the week and I could get it in, I would build the exact same double stacks I was building in the DeBomb back in the Battle Royale as well. And I won the DeBomb twice last year with double stacks. One was a Bradio and one was a Geno, and neither of those lineups sniffed the top 100 in the Battle Royale.
Wow. I mean, there you go. There you go. Yeah. I mean, the smaller the contest, the less things you have to get right. The bigger the contest, the more perfect your lineup has to be. And it's hard to be perfect across multiple players from one game.
Yeah. The last thing that I would like throw out there is, do you think this, like, you know, and we will eventually get it, I'm very certain of it, Sims for Battle Royale. Do you think that they will struggle with 6-person teams in such a large field? Like, how can you possibly sim that when we have differences of like 2 points taking you from 20K to like $1,000? The swings and the differences are so massive. It's like, what can simming these actually give you other than maybe like an undervalue, a guy that has like a 30 ADP and he's in a lot of winning lineups? Something, I guess it's like finding like one piece, right? Is that like what you think the benefit of like an eventual sim would be in something like this, is identifying a guy to build around?
I think the sim will have nothing to do with like the player in which you build around. I think the sim will entirely have to do with ownership relative to projection. So if I can sim a team that has a 235 ADPs and it's only like a 1.5 difference of mean projection from like a team that has all inside the top 35, well, you should be playing the second team for ROI standpoint way more frequently than the other team. So I think it'll run super parallel to the way in which we think about Showdown, because we're dealing with like, sorry, go ahead, Pete.
No, and I was just going to layer in the two dynamics we're talking about, because I've been thinking through this stuff in my head. Like my really good week, I did have a double stack. It was CJ Stroud. The difference was both of the guys, Dalton Schultz and Tank Dell, were largely getting undrafted. And I do think that combination of ownership and correlation plays into it. It's why I'm really queasy about the Justin Fields, DJ Moore, Trey McBride, because not only are you running into that combo that people are going to like, but it's also going to be, those players individually are going to be 100% drafted, where I think your room for error, the moat, is so much bigger if you're correlating with two guys who aren't getting drafted, or in the case of the running back wide receiver pairing, I'm more queasy to do it with two like first and second round picks, or first, second, and third, like the draft capital you're having to spend, because you're really playing for an alpha ceiling outcome. Like an example would be a week where Amon-Ra and Jahmyr Gibbs are going in the first and second round. Whereas like, say this week, like I'm far more comfortable with the Justin Jefferson, Ty Chandler, the capital I'm spending on him. I don't necessarily need the nuke 30-point game from Chandler in that pairing in the way I need that from my second round pick.
Right. Yeah, no, I fully agree there. And I think it to tie a bow on like the entirety of it, I think the Sims will prove that the GMs are more of a rug than the way in which we should actually be building.
We do that all along.
The call is coming from inside the house.
We're all looking for the guy.
Yeah.
Can we? Yeah. Let's go. I'm ready to give you all some winners.
Can we talk about the cover boy? I think it's really interesting with Jonathan Taylor this week, because I love the spot. He's smashing the projections. We just got Q tag on Zach Moss. Don't know if he's going to play. I find it very interesting that they ruled in Pittman today because he past concussion protocol. And then in the exact same, news dump, exact same breath, they didn't rule in Jonathan Taylor and they left the Q tag on him despite him being a full participant in practice this week. Does that give you guys any pause or concern?
It does. I'm a little like JT is not getting any cheaper, right now. He also, like, if we're just being completely honest with ourselves, hasn't been awesome this year when we have seen him. I think it's fair to wonder how much is his, thumb going to impact his pass catching stuff here. I don't know. I have concerns about a steamy Jonathan Taylor.
I think he's okay to take because this running back slate is, it's so ambiguous that your swap option is pretty nice. And honestly, I think that's what makes him so attractive is like you have the ability to kind of still make that last selection on your team, because if he doesn't play, then you have the swap. And I think being able to swap is going to be a huge advantage on a slate like this. We get a little bit more clarity on who those best plays are at running back, even though I do have like my favorites as is. And if he does play, it's a 45-point total. And Zach Moss is just hurt that same arm that he broke, right? Is that not the same arm? So, I mean, it's hard to not say Jonathan Taylor can't I know it's a thumb and that's a big deal for holding the rock, but it's not a hammy. It's not an ankle. He's probably in line for 25 touches if he's playing. So I think it's like a low risk, high reward type of play on this slate. I think he's a great pick for the cover boy because I love anytime that you have swap equity. I think that and the bright side is if he plays, well, great. Now you have 20 touch Jonathan Taylor in a 45-point total.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the only dangerous thing about the Q tag, right, is if you click a bunch of him and then Zach Moss plays, right?
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Do you guys think there is any path to like them suiting up for running backs this week and then him just being like the most overdrafted piece around because he only gets 11 touches?
It would just surprise me, I guess. I don't know. At this, I think they've eased Jonathan Taylor enough this season. It would really shock me to see them pull in Arthur Smith and not give their better running back the majority of the carries, when before this injury, we were seeing that changing of the guard, or at least it felt like it.
Yeah. The only thing that lives rent free in my head with that is the last time I aped Jonathan Taylor so hard coming off the IR there. And then he went, 35% of snaps with Zach Moss.
Well, that was then. This is now. things are different now. These are different now. I mean, that made sense then.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's fine. I think it more just speaks to how wide open this running back slate is. I mean, you look at ADPs, and I mean, there's a pretty big gap as far as like which even running backs are going early this week.
Yeah, I mean, Rachaad White I've seen go as high as like RB1 here, and then the models don't like Gibbs as much as kind of like this next tier. So we're seeing Gibbs kind of like slide back, and so it's basically one running back goes in the first 8 picks every single time, and then everyone else is just kind of like, who do you want to push up? And basically because Taylor and Bijan have been pushing up, Redacted has been falling down.
Right. Yeah, and what do you guys, I mentioned my love for Achane. Do you guys have any love for Pollard? Do you get the stuff circulating that he was actually injured at the beginning of the year and now we have the narrative to explain away his poor play? Are we buying or selling that news?
The last thing I needed in my life, Pete, was another reason to confirm my priors and shrug off everything that has taken place all year long and then just ape in on 5th round Tony Redacted this week. It's the last thing I needed, but I'm about to.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of crazy that, on Redacted, it's like impossible with the prices to build game stacks out from this game. But like here, I mean, if you want to do it, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
We just got the Jonathan Taylor not on injury report, by the way.
Yeah, that's very good. Does that mean we're going to lose the Q tag here shortly?
Probably.
Yeah, news team will probably, if you refresh in a couple minutes, that'll be a nice bright green, which is just like an attractor for people to draft. Like just take off the Q tag. We don't need the green light. That just attracts people to him.
Yeah.
I was saying while I was muted, Tony Pollard 13 touches last week, like in a blowout is interesting. If this is like an actual, shootout as opposed to a blowout, I would really like to see what we get from Tony Pollard. But it still feels like a bit of a rug. Like it's hard to like we haven't seen a ceiling all season. I know he's been hurt, but are they all of a sudden going to change their philosophy in play calling? Since Tony Pollard says that he's healthier, I'm not so certain on a slate where there's a lot of options.
Yeah. I think it is. It's this weird thing, right? Where I actually think right now it's easier to run on the Dolphins. Their pass defense has been really good. And yet, if you're playing like the Cowboys to roll, it like is going to be because the passing game gets going. And so I think we're just back to where we've always been with Tony Redacted, where it's like Cowboys roll, he gets an early goal line TD, and then he gets like some second half work as they try to salt it away. Like and I feel like that's been the redacted thesis all year.
Yeah. No, it's 100% been the thesis. And I mean, maybe that means it plays better as a game stack option. So maybe it is one of those ones where you pair him with CeeDee Lamb, and that's the only times in which you draft him. Because it's really hard to find a path where, he's the reason they win this game. He goes 180 into and is the guy you need from the 5th round. Like I see a better path for HN. I see a better path for maybe not Aaron Jones, but maybe even Derrick Henry. I see a better path for that occurring where the entire game runs through him there.
Yeah. What other running backs have you guys been enjoying clicking here?
I was all over the David Montgomery early leverage.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, John.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm. David Montgomery buried below Kenneth Walker or I guess now he's officially slightly above him. Mine still shows him but like being like right next to Kenneth Walker, who hasn't practiced all week, is just like really strange. And I'm not sure where this is coming from. He had 19 touches last week, and this is one of the highest totals on the slate. What are we doing exactly? Like, are you in lockstep with this, Pete? Like, I just don't think that this makes sense. Or John, what's your take?
Well, I was going to say Hayden brought up on Wednesday there that just from like exotic blitz perspective that Minnesota is this team that either rushes only 3 or they rush 8, and it's a team in which you need your best pass pro running back to be in there too. So a little film grinder hand in the dirt take was if they still don't trust Gibbs as much as they trust Demont in pass pro, that this could be a week in which he, we've been seeing the Gibbs trajectory go like this. We could see it level back off again and it be David Montgomery week just because they need him for both the short yardage stuff and red zone stuff, as well as the pass pro stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the only other thing I would mention is that like the Vikings have been way more of a pass funnel. I did just pull up the DVP tool on Fantasy Life. They're 7th best against the run and 25th against the pass. So teams have definitely been electing to throw on them more. So I guess I didn't necessarily love it quite as much, but I do like this entire game environment, and I certainly have interest in both those guys still.
I think one of the interesting backfields, I guess, because there's not really one guy up to this point, is the Bears. Deontay Foreman is questionable with, I think it's a personal matter. That doesn't sound good, the fact that they have to list that, so if he doesn't go, and this is, one of the highest this might be the highest team total the Bears have had all season. You got to think that this might be wheels up for Roschon, right? He's kind of been that second in line right now for the Bears. And, we've been targeting running backs against Arizona a lot. Roschon has been getting a lot of work. This might be Roschon smash week. Am I getting ahead of myself?
I mean, no, if you're looking to the flow chart against Arizona, right, it's beat them on the ground.
And I think, just this backfield consolidating to 2 guys makes it so much more viable. Like in that, like right now with a 3-way committee, I think they're almost unclickable, any of the running backs. But if you
They
remove
are.
Foreman, I would honestly probably mix and match Herbert and them. Like I don't know if I would be quite on board with like, oh man, this is just a for sure Roshan spot relative to Khalil Herbert. But I think I would have interest in both.
Look at Herbert buried all the way down here. Doesn't even have an ADP. Wow. Chris Rodriguez getting a little bit there. This was the one who had a 0 projection that Hayden was like the grossest of gross scroll down ones on Wednesday there.
And he's getting more work than Gibson.
I
know.
Yeah, and I think
ahead,
you just no. I mean, we should talk a little bit. I mean, Reeves was getting me hyped on both of the Jets guys this week, and you do have a little bit of leverage as far as like people are fine drafting Brees, and they're less interested in Garrett Wilson, which kind of surprises me. Although I guess Reeves said he prefers Brees on FanDuel, Garrett Wilson on Redacted, but I think when I look at this gap in ADP. I seriously want to be heavier on Garrett Wilson in this spot.
Yeah, I like that.
33 ADP. That's got to be a low drafted percentage. Got to be.
Yes.
And despite what we saw from Zach Wilson on the Miami Dog Bowl weekend, there, do we think Trevor Siemian's just like a better option right now? Like I feel like he is, especially for Garrett Wilson.
I basically work under the assumption, that the Jets are fully incapable of finding someone better than Zach Wilson, which seems hard, but the Jets continue to amaze us, and that everything is just like neutral for Garrett Wilson. And if he can give me the game he gave our Dog Bowl weekend, right, against the Texans where he cleared 100 yards and then he just magically gets in the end zone one of those weeks, like he can break the slate with his volume almost regardless of who that quarterback is.
Yeah, if you're looking at talent versus ADP, there's probably never a better play on the slate than Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. Definitely represents like probably the only attractive wide receiver really in this ring. Well, I guess you can make cases for Hopkins and some of these other guys, but I think Wilson has the ability to really smash like overall wide receiver 1 type of outcomes on a slate like this. Just this Washington defense is just so bad that this seems like the perfect time to kind of get exploitative with Garrett Wilson. He makes a great wide receiver 2 if you decide to go a different route in your first 5 picks.
And I think talking about the running back wide receiver pairings, I think this is another spot where you can do it. We saw the Brees Garrett Wilson pairing hit that week 14 week against the Texans. This is an awesome spot. Like Nez was saying, they're 31st. The Commanders are for wide receivers and 27th against running backs. I think playing those 2 guys together is viable. And Reeves was saying he has no problem doing that this week as well.
Love it. Yeah, that's a fun little contrarian pairing. I like that a lot. I want to ask you guys before like the slate gets flipped on its head and whatnot, is the Taylor's already pushing up. Now he's going to scream up based the green mark. Same with Pittman. Where are their actual ADPs? Like, where do you think they, should be jumping this whole tier here and now they're up with like kind of Mike Evans? Or do you think we got to like taper our expectations a little bit and keep them down here with the Metcalfs and Amari kind of thing?
What do you think now?
I think Gibbs. I think Taylor's gonna go like right behind Gibbs. Personally, I think maybe ADP may not ever reflect that, but the green Taylor tag on an RB slate like this, I think people will flock to Taylor. Maybe I'm wrong, and that just never happens. Pittman has been green for a minute now and is still way too cheap. So maybe that same thing will happen to Jonathan Taylor. But I think maybe people just thought that Michael Pittman was a for sure lock and they don't believe that he's going to play or something. But Michael Pittman's been like nothing short of incredible this season.
I think Pittman should be going not that far after Evans. I think once Evan comes off the board, Pittman should be going very soon.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't happen. Like, he's the only time that I will go 3 wide receivers is because I can get like Michael Pittman with like my 5th pick. And it just like, it just simply just doesn't make sense to me. So,
Yeah.
Hopefully that sticks.
Yeah, it's a good shout. And as Q tag Pittman was obviously easier to push than green tag Pittman. But even so, if you fall into a couple rooms, maybe a late night, couple Christmas parties tonight, maybe Pittman just keeps sliding down there, 6th round.
Little Christmas party. I love it.
I do. My parents are having a Christmas party tonight, as a matter of fact. And
nice.
I'm going to be talking about Underdog all night, man. I love my, like, I am very, very close with my family, and like my parents are just so proud of the fact that I went to Miami. So they're just gonna, my dad just tells everybody that, yeah, he went to Miami, like he was competing for 200,000. Like, oh, did you win? No.
Can someone pass the Keaton Mitchell? I mean, the mashed potatoes.
We're gonna have some fun. We're gonna have some fun tonight. But yeah, we will be ripping off drafts. Hopefully, that can be my way of passing the time and introducing people to Underdog and getting some fresh fish into the waters.
Let me give a quick plug for you guys here. I actually just listened to it this morning. You guys had the Dog Bowl champ, John Curick, on earlier this week. Definitely recommend circling back, listening to that if you wanted to get a little bit more flavor of what the weekend was like and what it was like to be in the mind of the inevitable champ there. I highly recommend listening to that episode.
Yeah, thanks, Pete.
Perfect. Actually, while we're on it, we only got 51 likes with 157 hanging out. Please and thank you. We'd like to keep coming back. Go ahead, click that thumbs up notification and such. Nez,
I would love to talk about tight ends.
James? How many times can you talk about a little James cooking in the kitchen this weekend here?
I mean, dude, I'm so upset. I've been the James Cook Bowl dating back to second half of last season, and then I missed the James Cook eruption spot last week, and it cost me. I mean, dude, I had some really nice teams that if I just go the other way in that 6v6, I win all the money. It felt really bad to miss out on the James Cook eruption week, but there's still time in the primetime slates, so you can still get your lick back because he's going to put up a cool 50 against the Chargers. But John, you've got tight ends pulled up, and man, I love the tight ends this week. Love them.
This Cole Kmet tag is new. Very interesting.
Yeah, I just saw that the report about Deontay Foreman, it also included the Cole Kmet stuff.
Ooh, is that like real? Is that an injury, or is that?
It's his quad, so back. I mean, yeah. It feels pretty real to me.
Huh, interesting. Yeah,
what I love.
You're right though.
Ahead,
no, just like tight end in general. Feels very nice. It feels a little mispriced in terms of like, I think Trey should be tight end 1, but Sam Laporta's having like basically the greatest rookie tight end season ever. So you're picking, nitpicking between these two. Then I think there's like that tier. Now I'm really curious what you guys do after, because I've been really gravitating to premium tight end this week, and I might be wrong on that if I'm missing some guys on the back end here.
I mean, you just left off there, like, who I think has one of the best ceilings on the slate, and Jake Ferguson. I mean, 50-point total in this game, and he's been an awesome target all week. We just haven't seen like the touchdown, luck really hit Jake Ferguson yet. But oh my goodness, man, this is like the one constant for me in these draft rooms is like I want Jake Ferguson on like all my teams, and it really is not that hard, clearly, because he's tight end 6. And I mean, yeah, these other tight ends are good and can have good games, but for me, I am just surprised that the tight end with Dak Prescott as his quarterback, that with a team that throws a lot, with a 50-point total against the Dolphins, is tight end 6. Like, Evan Ingram has no business going ahead of Jake Ferguson on this slate. None.
Interesting. I do love this spot for Evan Ingram. I mean, I've been wanting to pick on Tampa Bay all year. It does seem like Trevor Lawrence is going to play. I'm with you on liking Jake Ferguson, but I just don't want you to have to slander Evan Ingram in the process.
You're right. I shouldn't have to put someone down to bring up my boy Ferg. That's toxic behavior. You're right. I gotta read more PO box and correct my ways.
Oh, man. Shout out to community here. Matt becoming a member and Jay Habs becoming a member. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
What do they get? What do they get with the membership perks, guys?
That gets you access to a super, super spicy secret behind the paywall NBA stream for me on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the morning. So congratulations there. People, I rip off some very popular bits from other streamers and build ranks for hoops. It's great.
Tune in.
Great stuff. Yeah, that question in the chat there, are we back in on the Kyle Pitts train this week? I said I like that game environment a lot. Can we funnel some of that through there? I think the Tucker Kraft one is very interesting. If we get no Reed, no Watson, no Dillon, I mean, maybe a bunch funnels there. Luke Musgrave was practicing this week, which I didn't even know was a possibility.
He's
to
out.
be honest. Okay, so it's already been
ruled him out. Yeah.
Okay. I just saw that he was practicing early. I just didn't even know that wasn't even on my radar at the start of the week that he could come back this week.
Yeah. Reeves talked me into Kyle Pitts. He liked this spot for him. I certainly like Pitts more with Heineke than I do with Ritter, just like isolating that variable. And I do think this is, going back to like the correlation stuff, I think like the scroll down one-off tight end play, like you're not going to get a ton of pushback from me on any of these guys who aren't getting drafted in a bunch that just have some kind of ceiling, like if you like, I'm not a Cade Otton guy just because, I know we saw that one game. But like these other guys like Dalton Schultz who can consolidate, targets, Kyle Pitts who can hit for the big play, these guys I'm willing to take as one-offs this week. Tucker Kraft I think is fine with how many targets are open, and his ADOT finally increased. I feel like that first game he got, they were doing little dink and dunk, and then we finally got to see him used a little deeper down, how they were using Musgrave. So I think that makes him more interesting. I do think those three you have there are probably my favorite scroll down guys.
I will add one more to the list. If we just play the flow chart and we go even more contrarian than the double stack we alluded to earlier, Tyler Conklin's usage has been nice.
Yeah.
Good flow chart game, baby.
Yeah. I know you'd love a good flow chart, Nez.
Talk dirty to me, John.
No, you're in a child's nursery. Should we rip a draft here and then rip a pick'em?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Okay, cool.
How are you guys, allocating? I mean, you guys are multi-sport athletes. How are you guys allocating your time and bankroll over the next few days with all of these different slates?
It's tough.
I think I'm going pretty heavy on this 9-gamer here. I like it more than the Christmas one. And then I think I'll play Christmas hoops heavy on the day off because NBA's off on tomorrow or Friday. They're off on Christmas Eve. So I think I'll use Christmas Eve to be like all hoops day for the Christmas slate. And then I think these next couple days are going to be like a little bit of hoops, but mainly trying to get the main BR entries filled up for me.
I'm just going to do as many as I can, but I have been really enjoying, thanks to the wins that I've had, I've been able to play the bomb more, which like it really fits like my play style more, which is, involving correlation. So, getting some practice run in with the battle royales, I'll use the bomb to get in my main slate. And then I'm going to try to get a bunch of Christmas slates in because it is a little reminiscent of Thanksgiving there with, no ADP. I think there's some exploitive plays to make there. And so I'm in this nursery, right? And I found this little Russian nesting doll here that like I distinctly remember whenever I was a child. So let me give you a little, I'll tell you a story here about the Christmas slate.
Okay.
Here's layer one, which is
go full,
Kadarius
Tony. I need to go full screen for this.
Kadarius Tony. He's not practicing this week.
Yeah.
He's not going to play. Jerick McKinnon. Little guy, banged up, not practicing, not going to play. What does this leave us with, folks? a little cheeky she rice. Many are saying wide receiver 1 on the entire slate.
We normally don't have much to clip from this show. I think that has to get clipped there.
Producer, clip it.
Yeah. Yeah, our producer. Oh, man. We're on the clock here. We have the Naked Fields decision. We have Rashad White staring us in the face. We could do one of the tight ends. What do you guys like?
Let's do White and get us off of a Chalk Fields build.
Okay. We'll do White to start. And then what do you like on the other side of that? We could push up tight end. We could push up. I don't know. We could do Mike Evans and just ape in game environment. What do you guys like?
How about we lock up Trey McBride?
I fucking love it.
Trey McGronk, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, this is I've been doing from the 106. I've been doing like 3 starts quite commonly. Fields, McBride. If Fields, DJ Moore's not there, so Fields, McBride, White, Evans, or White and McBride. That's been kind of what I've been gravitating toward.
Do you guys, real quick, like going back to how you guys are going to handle this Trevor Lawrence situation? I saw someone in the chat asking, where we are on him playing. Like, how do you handle this one from a Q tag perspective, right? Because I think he's an awesome click, like just in a vacuum in general. ADP 35.1, you get the Q tag, but this also becomes like a bit of a swapping nightmare, right? Where it's like you want your quarterback to swap into a stack. Like I feel like your teams are drawing dead for first in most cases if you're late swapping to a guy that you don't have a stack. So like, how do you guys think about that? Are you just going to sit and wait to get your Jag stacks?
I will, yes. I'm a big proponent of fading quarterback Q tags because I think quarterback Q tags are completely different than at other positions.
Gotcha. Nez?
I think that's probably the way to go. But I do think that because this slate, is pretty ambiguous at quarterback, that the swap options, I'm okay with running something naked at quarterback. Yeah, I would love some correlation, but I can use my imagination for some of these one-off QBs for sure. I mean, I don't know what the point is, but I really need to get out that I like Joe Flacco this week, and I think that Flacco is somebody that I'd be totally fine swapping to.
Well, this is just why I want individual swap per lineup so bad. Because like you could draft a team that has Justin Jefferson, Amari Cooper, and Calvin Ridley on it, and you take Trevor Lawrence, and then I set it up. I'm going to go to Nick Bolins or Joe Flacco if I don't get it, and I'm very happy with that team. But you're not going to be able to do that across a big set of lineups.
Yeah, nope, couldn't agree with you more. That's unfortunate. I was really hoping the Jonathan Taylor one fell to us there. What do you guys want to set up here? We could do a little like mini game.
Waddle and 2 is like staring at us in the face.
Okay. I mean, what do you like, Pete?
Yeah. The only guy, I think Pittman's mispriced. That's the only other guy that jumps out to me, but I definitely don't mind grabbing that stack.
It's if I was hard drafting, to find any good pairings.
If I was drafting on my own right now, like 100% of the time right here, I've been doing Bijan plus Pittman. I would pass the Tua stack. That's what I've been doing. I don't know. That's where I'm at this week. And then I would go like skinny contrarian back stack of like Geno plus Lockett, or I would go Drake London and double stack that and take Minshew or something. I'm getting really gross this week, guys.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like it's not even you have to consciously get gross at quarterback this week. It's just like you naturally have to get gross.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. I guess you could slam it in on Dak and Tua every single time if you wanted to, but it would be hard to even pull that off. Like you're going to have to take some gross QBs.
When have we, like, Tua to me is like poor man's Mahomes, where it's like we just never get a ceiling game. Like if I need to win a football game, like, yeah, Tua feels great. If I'm playing to win a slate like this, I'm just going to X out Tua at his ADP right now.
I mean, you're not wrong, but I mean, I would certainly say that a 50-point total against the Cowboys sets up for a Tua ceiling game more than anything. I mean, you're not wrong in the context of the season, but in the context of this game on a slate where we just kept talking about how gross quarterback is, I'll take the guy that that plays on the best offenses in the league, and with his wide receiver too. Sure.
I guess the question is what do you like more, Waddle and Achane or Tua and Waddle, and then setting up like some kind of other backdoor stack with your last 2 picks?
Waddle and Achane, and it's not remotely close for me.
I mean, that's really bold. That's really bold, in my opinion. I mean, to say it's not remotely close when Achane is like hardly like sniffed the field. I mean,
like just in terms of ceiling game. Backfield. Like the only way I think that the Tua plus Waddle reaches ceiling is if Tyreek doesn't play this week, and then you literally get Waddle with what he did last week. You get 28, and then Tua still didn't matter because you were better off having Waddle with Mostert than you were having Waddle with Tua. They just run way too much, and they run creatively in the red zone.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm just like, who are you stacking? You know, like you're that confident in a Geno stack over, Tua and Waddle? Like, I don't know, man. I think maybe.
Yeah.
It's more just thinking through, like, can I at that point, like the 2v2s, right? You're going to be able to find another running back later that you like. You're going to be able to find another quarterback. I think it's just like, I've been struggling with Tua's lack of ceiling lately. But it's not to say it can't change. Like we saw it at the beginning of the year. Stafford didn't have a ceiling for a lot of this season. And then he finally started going, and it's going to be heavily reliant on touchdown passes. Obviously, I just think, to John's point, their playbook just like really evaporates in the red zone, and they are running so much.
Mm-hmm. It's eerily similar to the Lions in some respects, except for you have 2 wide receivers to deal with. I think Pittman's one of the picks for us.
Yeah,
he'd be my pick. Yeah,
I love Pittman.
Yeah, he fell all the way back to us. I queued up a couple other ones here. If you guys want to do the Achane, we could do like a full game stack from that one with Tua. We could do the Garrett Wilson one we alluded to, Drake London mini correlation. We could do the Chuba getting 20 plus touches, David Montgomery leverage. What do you guys like?
I like Chuba.
I'd say Chuba or like a cheeky Cooks game stack if you want to, like, if you think that that's the help that Tua needs to get there.
Brandon Cooks?
Correct.
I haven't drafted him yet this week. I might have to do that.
I just think, if that's the case where, like, I think it seems like I think Tua can still get the ceiling game without being pushed. I know that they do run the ball so incredibly well, but just the how efficient they are, like Tua can easily like run hot on passing touchdowns too. But if you think that it needs to be a game environment push, I think Brandon Cooks or Ferguson in your Tua stacks is probably what you want to be aiming for.
Okay. Yeah, I think like if Tua runs hot on like passing touchdowns and whatever, I think Tyreek breaks the slate. I never think Waddle breaks the slate. So like building Tua Waddle just feels like redundant at that point to me.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely hard to see Tyreek not going nuts if it's if he's playing. I feel you on that,
goes 4 touchdowns or whatever.
But it's probably good leverage at the same time, I guess.
Yeah, true. Yeah, very much so. All right, what do you guys think? Do we want to talk about the Christmas one and rip one Christmas one kind of on the fly, or do you guys want to do the pick'em build out?
How about this? How about we build a pick'em or 2 with main slate stuff, and then we can squeeze in maybe a quick Christmas draft, Christmas pick'em combo kind of thing?
Cool. Let's do it. I have not fact checked this yet, but I know Matt Moody is a sharp hockey mind, and they do a lot of morning skate podcast, him and DJ Mitchell there, and he put together some odds of what he thinks
nice, based
on the spicy pick'ems, what he thinks that equates to on your traditional sports book. I don't take it at whatever yet. I trust him and their process, and they've had some really good success in the hockey pick'em streets. But just for reference point, this is kind of what the Peppers equate to in terms of odds shopping.
I like that. That's very helpful.
Yeah, good to know.
Also, we need to give ourselves a little. It's been a week, but we hit one of our
lest we
5-leg,
forget.
our spicy. I mean, how many of those have we hit on the show this year? It's been at least 3, right?
Yeah. I think it's 3 or 4, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that'll cover you for a season of playing. I think just like even like 2 of those will cover you for a season of playing pick'ems.
We've had some really narrow misses too. Like we had the Mike Evans touchdown callback one in Miami. That would have been another one. And then we had, I believe, a James Cook one as well, where James Cook didn't find the end zone on a spicy one that would have solidified a Bills game environment one there too. So some narrow misses as well. So yeah.
I got one to do you guys want to do just our kind of like our from the gut, our favorite kind of plays, guys we think might be mispriced? I got one to kick us off with.
Kick us off, Pete.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a guy we've been talking about, like Chuba, a lot. And then I saw my guy Jeff Ulrich over at Fantasy Life, who's also been on fire with pick'ems. I recommend if you got, I've been tailing him and he's been a print fest. He writes an article and posts his, but then they also have a bet tracker where you can follow his. But he flagged Chuba higher than 16.5 rushing attempts. And I love this one. He's been over 20 carries the past couple weeks. And then you get a nice matchup versus Green Bay. And they're quiet quitting on this season via Chuba Hubbard. And I love how this one sets up.
Good shout.
Yeah. I think we need to hurry up and get more plays on this pick'em before they change that to 17 even. John, you talked about You talked about Geno, and Geno has been like one of my favorite emergency stacks in battle royales this week. Let's take a look at some of these, maybe just Seattle in general.
Yeah.
4.5 on receptions there. No running back lines yet with the Q tag on Walker.
What do you guys think about like this JSN emergence? Like I saw the receiving yards on JSN and I got a little excited.
I'm just not a reliable narrator. I have to literally recuse myself from any, like I'm almost unbiased about most stuff. And like JSN, like you say him, and I'm like, I can't even think logically about this.
It's crazy to see his spice up for a touchdown with compared to Lockett being the worst of the two.
That's what I mean, man. I really does feel like there's a change happening.
Honestly, I wouldn't even mind. Like I know we're gonna not be able to get the multipliers we used to, but if we after this wanted to build a game one out with like a Geno double and play it through the two of these 3 guys with at least JSN as one of them with the cheapest yards or whatever, lowest yards, I would certainly be into that.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm not saying we can't use JSN here. I was just saying, like, if we like this spot and we think all of these yardage totals are a little light.
I like the spot for Seattle.
They feel light, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can throw on Tennessee.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with how banged up they are. I like this one. I think my favorite game environment play one is Atlanta and the Colts. But
yeah, let's pull up those
I'm
guys.
I'm down to make up either. I do think if we're just doing like play the best plays one, I'm in lockstep with you here on either of these two, Nez.
Also, which one do you guys like more?
I'm gonna go utilization hub and see like what ADOT looks like for JSN. I don't think it's anything. I think it's pretty bad. But just to get some confirmation bias on what we think is best here. JSN also, ADOT is up to 11 last week.
Mm-hmm.
True lock, baby.
I'll also just pour some more fuel on the fire here for wide receiver matchups this week. I was like looking at the RotoViz matchup rater just to kind of help break ties within position or teams, and it likes JSN's matchup of the wide receivers on Seattle specifically the most.
Okay.
I think I would say yards.
Let's do it.
Cool.
Can we go look at Trey Gronkowski? All 3 of him in the lobby. I like every single one of them, and you guys can choose.
Yeah, it was
Damn.
unfortunate that we had the other one last week not get home on the Trey McBride because we got it at 2.5 on the spice, and that came down to a flat 2 by Sunday. And then he ended up with 10 catches and 100 and whatever yards and just didn't find the end zone. That was unfortunate.
Yeah.
You're like the Gronk whisperer here, Pete. I know you love them all. Do you have a lean on him here?
What I would probably do is, so just to give, so the past 3 games, 7 receptions, 8 receptions, 10 receptions, past 3 games, 60 yards, 89 yards, 102 yards. It has had 1 touchdown in there. I guess I would lean towards yards or receptions, and maybe you could, if you want to play along at home and you want to spin this off and swap out a spicy there to juice your stuff a bit, you could. I don't know. You guys break the tie on receptions or yards. I like them both.
John, what do you think, man?
I clicked yards. I don't know why I instinctively did that, but I clicked yards.
Okay. I honestly was going to lean receptions.
Okay. So we all like
the only reason I say that is because I kind of respect the Bears defense and their ability to kind of limit production, but the volume will likely still be there, especially without Hollywood.
I'm very good with that.
Yep. Okay. And we have the opportunity to get a push as well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check on my Colts here.
Not that we're rooting for condoms here. Michael Pittman, by the way, while we were talking about that, ended up popping up on the injury report with a shoulder. I still don't think he plays, but interesting.
What the fuck's going on with this guy?
They're using him too much.
It's just so weird to be like concussion protocol, then be like, hey, I'll play this week, and then now all of a sudden be designated with an injury. Like, it's so strange.
It's weird. Yeah, that would be late. I don't think that that's weird that it popped up so late.
Well, that kind of infers to me that he got hurt in practice today. Like, you know what I mean? Like that progression.
No, you're right. You're right.
Clears concussion protocol. Then they say he's going to play this week. Now he has a shoulder. Like, that's weird.
Damn.
Those late week cues that flip flop are actually injuries, right?
Yeah. How about
sorry, Pete, Chip brings up a good point here that like maybe guys are getting extra cautious with labeling players now after we saw the Falcons get fined.
Yeah. I was gonna toss out, like, if we kind of want to avoid just the spot right now. You could get cheeky and try to get in on Josh Downs early if you wanted. I would love to pull up
that.
This is another guy here too. So like even last week, kind of getting ramped up, only 12 touches, 9 attempts, 3 receptions, still at 62 total yards. I think you would just play it through the rushing, receiving. Like this number in this spot, a 50-point total with his health trending in the right direction relative to Mostert. That number seems light.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think if you wanted to go ahead, John. I was just going to say, if you like it, you can go spicy TD as well. The dude is just efficient as shit. But for this play, I like the total yards.
I caught myself there because I was saying, especially with Mostert DNPs, but he did just full practice this morning. So he went DNP, full practice. So I thought there might have been even a little bit more leverage on that. But I'm good with, if we want to spice it up and live that way, I'm good with that one. I would prefer just like the rushing and receiving of those two spice. But I like rushing and receiving yardage more than the spice in general.
Yes, let's do that, because the risk with Mostert, right, is like dude's going to get the goal line carries still.
Right.
So, but I feel pretty good about Achane getting some scrimmage yards here.
Cool. Like it. Who else did we like just kind of in general? We said Aaron Jones a little bit. We said, I'm kind of scared off the Colts stuff now there. We said the Atlanta stuff as well. Do we want to go back to the Bijan well?
I have such an awful taste in my mouth from last week on that.
Right. Ooh, Copper Price is throwing an interesting one out here. Fields rushing one. That kind of feels nice, especially with Foreman out.
We are kind of built
no to the few shot stuff.
Yeah, what is it? What is it at here? 56.5 rushing yards. So he cleared that in 2 of the past 3 games. The only one at Cleveland, he was at 30. Man,
that feels so good.
Yeah.
He needs one run. I like that. That's a good shout from Copper.
This is like, I'm going to go ahead and lump JSN with this theme and say this is just a play the best plays pick'em entry right here.
I like it.
I mean, some grown-ass men in here.
I'm not sure H.N. and Justin Fields are grown-ass
Come
men.
on, H.N. Okay, maybe he's the speed equivalent of a grown-ass man. We haven't come up with a name to describe
it's
him.
Not
a
the
unicorn.
Size of the dog in the fight.
Fast-ass man.
It's the size of the fight in the dog, man.
A fam and gams.
All right,
I like this
best
one.
Place.
Lock it in.
One BBM 5 entry on the line. I'm going to drop that one in the chat for everybody, and I will drop it in the private chat for you gentlemen, so you don't have to do the heavy lifting.
I will say, I guess the game stack ones aren't as fun now that we're getting the negative multiplier. We could just do like John's 3-leg Spicer last week. Like if we want to do a McBride, I don't know who else we liked in the Spice Streets.
McBride for sure. Fields would be interesting. Oh, you can't look because you're in.
I'm froze out in Pennsylvania.
Now. I was wondering. Yeah.
Be my guide, John.
Okay. You said just looking by TDs is kind of like the easiest way to find Spice, right?
Yeah, I'm doing that right now.
Okay.
Ooh, dude, I got one for us that we talked about. Let's do one of Garrett Wilson or Breece Hall.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
It's the Breece Hall rushing is 1.75, Garrett Wilson receiving or rushing is 1.75, and then Breece Hall both is 1.5. I do think you'd want the out for Breece to get the receiving, but I would be fine going Garrett Wilson too.
I think I prefer Breece. I think I prefer
rushing
Breece
and receiving.
If you do both.
Yeah. Let's do both rushing, receiving.
Scorch it up, baby. Spicy Breece Marks this week.
I love that.
Yeah, and then we like Trey, right? Like Trey Gronk is just our move this week.
The 1.5, like, feels good.
The way
that's a negative. That's a bearish indicator, though. Last time I felt myself like that on a Spice, it was a Kyle Pitts one that I believe didn't get there.
Ooh. Spicy eggnogs this week?
Dude, I did. I pounded some eggnog the other night. I'm gonna have to do some more here soon. Do you know who else we haven't got into that we should look at for Spice? Just a couple spots. Liking the Browns passing game spot, and then we always got to check in on our Tampa Bay Bucks as well.
Yeah, always Bucks. That's just
they're still giving us a Spice for Mike Evans TDs.
Unbelievable. They haven't learned their lesson yet.
When will they learn? Yeah. Njoku and Amari the same at 1.5 there.
I think Njoku 1.5. I mean, I know I'm chasing points here, but God, that dude gets work in the red zone, gets work deep. Like he's everywhere, man.
It's crazy that like it's kind of unfortunate it took this long because he's an absolute physical specimen, like chiseled out of granite type guy. And it was like we always tried to buy into that. And then he gets half his face burnt off in the middle of the year this year and just plays through it like as if we should have ever questioned a grown-ass man like David Njoku.
It just took an elite quarterback to unlock him.
That's a fair point.
I'm definitely on board with Njoku. Copper says he has the Evans, Breece, Chuba, Njoku, McBride.
All right, so we're all on the same scent here.
Okay, let's go 5 wide then. I like this. Let's go 5 wide and
I think the Evans, man, he's just
and you can just see that like even last week when like I was watching that game obviously because I'm sick and love sweating those bucks or whatever. But you could see that like his eyes all the way downfield, Baker's eyes all the way downfield were white Godwin.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they get to the 20 and it's just like first read over and over again, seam route from the slot. Mike Evans just go win one-on-one versus slot corner and be bigger. Like that's what he looks to every single time.
Let's see here. I guess do we not need to get another spice to get our max spice here?
So we're at 42x right now.
Okay, well maybe we do need one more because 50x I think is max multiplier.
Yeah.
Okay.
527x capped at 5x.
We could go back to the HN and do the 1.5 rushing and receiving. Or we could do the Fields thing if we wanted to lean into, we had the rushing yards in the one, you go the rushing TD in this one.
Yeah. I like the Fields one. The Fields one feels nice. And
that gets us up to the full, I think.
Max entry multiplier has been reached. That is the exact notification I needed to see.
Dude, 50 to 5K. I just did it.
Okay.
We're living a little. Dude,
I'm so envious right now.
We are absolutely spicing people's lives up.
Nez, do you want me to place one for you?
Oh yeah.
How much do you want?
Give me run it back. Give me 50. I'll send you a.
Do you want me to give you 50 on the two we've done?
Yeah. I'll hit you up for that.
Yeah, I got you.
Perfect. So this is interesting. Copper Price is bringing up that we only needed 125x to make that a full one, and I guess we ate a 0.25 because we wanted to get the Fields play in. But just thinking through the way that the pick'em games work, I think it's just like good context in what he said there.
Sometimes we get excited on the show and make slightly suboptimal math decisions. That is a disclaimer
we
will offer.
When people catch up to this show and they are late in placing their entries like they were last week and things move, it's going to work out. The math's going to work out great for those people when they're watching after the show because it's going to move. That's what we do. We're market movers here.
Yeah, I felt bad for the people that it moved on them last week and lost the Jaden Reed one by 0.5 yards after he got hurt.
That sucked.
It was like,
that sucked.
Man. Yeah.
Especially because it was an injury too, you know?
Are we good on main slate pick'ems? We can rip a Christmas draft and then do a Christmas one?
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I got to start helping out, set out these appetizers for the Christmas party. We got shrimp cocktails to set out. We got cookies. We got wine bottles to carry out.
I know where Radpad's going to be sitting.
Love it. Did I tell you guys that when I interviewed him, he did a Swolecast reference?
No way. I did not.
Yeah, he's like he's an OG in the DFS space, but like that took me back that he regularly watches Swolecast too. He started out his interview with "Hear ye, hear ye," little kitchen nod there.
That's great.
That's fantastic. I can't wait to see those, man. I really, I didn't get to see those in real time or hear those in real time, so I'm, I'm looking forward to watching those when they come out.
Yeah.
Next year you should be shittier in the dog bowl. So you don't have a chance at a 200K like Pete and I.
Sorry, man. The wife's counting on it.
So one thing I want to bring up, and this is just a real kick in the dick, but also pertinent to this Christmas slate because I just saw it. Devontae Smith has not practiced all week. I have him on 3 of 5 of my BBM teams, and I'm starting to tilt a little bit here.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Not
What's
good.
the designation and what was I don't remember him getting hurt in the Seattle game.
Something with the knee. I don't remember him getting hurt either.
How close are you to asking for the contest structure to change on Twitter?
Yeah, I think it should be like you get to drop one score, from like we got to find a way. How can I spin this Devontae Smith thing?
One IR slot once you make it to week 16, and then there's an ad drop pool that is a randomized reverse snake draft.
Yeah. No, I actually meant to click Puka Nakua on all those 2-3 Devonta Smith turn shares.
Yeah. Me too. Thanks. Yeah. So easy decision there, obviously.
Interesting room so far. Yeah, we took CMC at the 101 there. We talked about this when we did the preview on Monday for a little bit there, Nez, that like pushing quarterback in these rooms is the meta, because like we built one on stream where we had Jalen Hurts in the 6th round just because people gravitate towards like certain stacks and whatnot.
I have custom ranks when I do these, but yeah.
Okay, well, let's just go off. What do you like next here? Because like Debo's pushed way down in this stuff. Ayuk's pushed way down in this stuff. Purdy's always the last quarterback to go.
Because they want us to. Because they want us to win. I don't know what's going on. I think that the projections maybe just fear the Ravens for some reason. But dude, you can do whatever you want, man. Like for me, it's Rashee Rice.
Okay.
Not even a bit.
Yeah, well, you did do the bit, but I will try.
So Rashee Rice over Debo and Ayuk are just trying to play the rankings game a bit.
A little bit of rankings game and a little bit of like we're also, I think, should probably take a Niner as well. But Rice, I think, should be one of these picks.
Do you guys have a preference here?
I get bodied every week, and I'm just going to keep saying Brandon Ayuk. Until I'm right. I'm literally just going to say it until I'm right. One of these weeks, I have to be right that it's Ayuk over Samuel.
Well, I mean, from like a general thesis of like having Christian McCaffrey on your team, you probably don't want the running back or the wide receiver who's going to maybe get a rushing touchdown as well.
Yeah. Do you think that changes at all on a shorter slate, or do you think that still holds true?
I think it still holds true. I think because we can find, rushing equity elsewhere. I think if you want CMC's ceiling, he has to have two rushing touchdowns to break the slate. And if Debo takes one of those, I think you'd rather be pairing Ayuk than Samuel.
Yeah.
That's interesting here. So there's still the Q tag on Josh Jacobs, despite saying he said something to the effect of he's going to try and play or whatever. I don't know. Did Zamir White show enough to still be in the mix there? We don't know what's going to happen with Baltimore's backfield, but I imagine it's a Gus Bus one. So if you're building out kind of like 1-3-1s, like Gus Bus going late, what do you guys think happens with the Pacheco situation? Do you think like CEH has done enough to earn some role or some pass game there?
Maybe with McKinnon out. But overall, no, I think it's still Pacheco's backfield.
Okay. Yeah. We got taken out of Purdy there. So doing like Lamar likely right here feels good.
I like that a lot.
There's also
especially need to take Lamar.
Right.
Oh, everybody has a quarterback.
Everyone took it already? Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Imagine we live in a world where you can take Lamar Jackson in the last round of these.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, these contests are beautiful, and they're honestly like if you wanted to, if you have money burning a hole in your pocket, you could easily auto draft these and just take whatever quarterback is left at the end and like queue up your best flex plays. Jacobs is interesting because I really think that he's like truly questionable. He didn't practice yesterday, I don't think.
Okay.
I mean, you have swap options there.
I mean, like for me, taking Jacobs and then just having the Zamir White free swap feels good.
Yeah.
Like it's almost a 1-for-1. I don't think he's obviously as talented, but from a usage standpoint, it feels pretty good.
Yeah.
Just from like a construction standpoint, this does feel like kind of chalky. Maybe we needed to scroll the F down a little bit more there at the wide receiver position.
I don't know. I think it might be to me that just feels a little. I mean, if you want to scroll the F down, I think maybe you could have sub Jacobs for like Jacoby or something or other. But at this point, there is a huge tier break at wide receiver, and it feels a little forcey. But I think Jacobs, Wandale for sure are two guys that I am like looking towards, and I think you could probably throw in Justin Watson as well.
Yeah. With the Tony Q tag and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're losing 3 Sky Moore routes because he's on IR. You're losing 4 Tony routes because he's hurt too. I mean, that
get out the nesting doll.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we run it back with?
Here's the Justin Watson thesis with the. This thing is so creepy.
This is a really deep slate for a 4-gamer here because there's like players that are going undrafted that could definitely factor into breaking this slate, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, while we still have the board up, I mean, who would you say?
I liked your shouts. I liked your shouts a lot there. I think there's some merit to 2 tight end builds in this just because of the
100%.
depth of the tight end position there.
Nez, do you want to give your PSA? If you're in my room and you think you're entitled to getting Dallas Goedert later, I am rolling out Dallas Goedert, Travis Kelce team.
You cannot at me on Twitter with the "Come on, Nez, I was trying to set up my tight end stack." Sorry, folks. I'm playing the best plays.
Yeah, I just did one concurrently with you guys here, my first one, and the same dynamic happened, but with Brock Purdy, to get Brock Purdy with your last pick in these. You can get the MVP.
The MVP front runner for free. That is just
for free.
Yeah, these slates are actually like kind of awesome.
I'm gonna have to set some manual ranks and probably doing a little auto and then definitely max the fullback version of this. It's good shit.
Yeah. I think autoing is so viable on this. I mean, you just like maybe do 10, switch up your rankings,
randomize them. Yeah.
Yep, and you can really end up with a profitable day, I think.
The only other little wrinkle I'd say there to the slate is the only weather concern spot. Although we are not #WeatherBros anymore, Nez has definitively put us as not such. But there could be some rain in Kansas City for that game.
Right, Nez? This is the jerk off motion for the audio listeners to the rain.
let me try to give you some wind there so you can really hear it.
Now it really is back to your 16-year-old days in that room.
Looking at pitch grips.
I wonder if my parents had me out on the TV like they did on Wednesday again. Or Thursday. One can only hope not.
Oh my goodness. Oh man! All right, let's build out a Christmas pick'em here, and then call her a show because I got some Christmas shopping still to do.
All right. Of course you do.
Oh, buddy. I'm trying to think through
these Chargers, man.
So just to outsource one to that Greg flagged, Jeff, over at Fantasy Life. And it's not me pushing Brandon Ayuk, but he does like the 63.5 on Brandon Ayuk receiving yards. Just saying.
Okay.
Just saying.
That's a good starting point. Let's look at Niners just in general.
Yeah.
Weird stuff for Debo.
First downs.
What's it at?
Only first downs, targets, and fantasy points.
They've been taking a bath on Debo.
Yeah, they're like, screw this. You guys get the weird lines now.
I don't even see Ayuk anymore.
Oh yeah, I don't either. Weird.
They're shook.
Well,
they are shook.
Jake Moody, you think the Niners can score 3 touchdowns or no?
No.
Oh man, it's crazy. This might be game of the year, like low key.
Yeah, potential Super Bowl preview for sure. I'm still, and I know it's the AFC North in me. I'm still not a believer in these Ravens, but they have a good chance to kind of shut me up here. So
what's their backfield situation look like on here? Man, Isaiah Likely, this feels really nice.
Receiving yards? Yeah. I think that's a good call. I also think, Lamar, like, I know we're going to get docked on it, but Lamar 217 passing yards, teams throw at the highest rate against the Niners because they just got to keep pace. And we've already seen them really ratcheted it up lately, like that game against the Rams. I don't mind that number there.
What if we do this as like game of the year nightcap? Play this game through these three. I like this. This Gus Edwards fantasy points feels straight ass broken. You get down to the goal line, they're gonna run him, right? Like this isn't gonna be.
Yeah, you're just getting a DVP discount there on Gus. And just to back it up, Fantasy Life has him projected for 52 rushing yards. Jeff actually took higher than 39.5 rushing yards on him, but I think playing the TD out there as well is completely fine. And he did have he had a reception for 11 yards too, so there are a couple extra paths to him getting there even without a TD. I think.
I like that.
Niners implied total is 26.
Yeah, we need a Niner.
Kittle's, oh man, Kittle's just like so binary outcome. It feels so weird. Debo 12.5 feels high, like just as like a mean.
Why aren't they giving
McCaffrey
us
20 fantasy points? Holy shit!
Yeah, that's wild.
James likes Moody kicking points. I mean, that definitely ties into the team total.
Moody,
man, I mean that's mine. But
you like Moody?
Love Moody.
Which one?
Extra points.
Yeah,
2.5. They score 3 touchdowns.
3 tutties.
Yeah, they're scoring 3 touchdowns, man. The Ravens are good, but it's the Niners.
They just moved Lamar on us, Neumy.
Come on, Neumy,
man.
dude. Why are you trying?
Are you guys cool with playing 4 now that we kind of have the multiplier changes? Like, I'm not sure if the math still wants us to do 5.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. I haven't ran the model on it.
Maybe just because we're not cowards, we do 5.
I do know that it was a pretty big gap before the multiplier stuff, so I'm just wondering how much we need someone smarter than us to tell us. What about CMC receiving yards, guys? I mean, they're content rushing him like in those games where they're rolling, against like the Cardinals and stuff. But like even that game against Philly, 3 for 40 there. This number 31.5. If we are playing this as the game of the year, Baltimore's kind of stiff interior run defense. Like, isn't CMC going to cook in the passing game here?
I'm totally sold
with it. So this would have traditionally been a 20x, and now it's a 15. Oh man, this Lamar's going up another yard,
dude.
We gotta get this.
Take the hands off the wheel, buddy.
Oh, and likely going up a yard too. We got to get this in, man. They're doxing the shit out of us, man.
You know what's going on is like while we're BSing about how much we like this, our audience is already jamming it in, and so they're reacting to the people watching and like seeing all these picks come in. That's what's happening.
Neumy, do you want another 50 on this one? Or Neumy, Nez?
We almost made it We almost made the whole show.
Well, I was just talking about Neumy boosting. I got you.
Yeah, that's not your fault. That's a 40 slip. Yeah. Go ahead. Give me one more, and then let me know your Venmo after the show.
Turn me up with the bro science we needed right here. Christmas Christian McCaffrey. Like the thesis doesn't.
The reason
get
for the season himself.
Than that. Yeah, literally.
I love it.
Oh. Okay, I dropped that one in the chat. Oh, here, I'll drop it in the private chat for you guys too.
And I dropped the first 2 in the BadgeBros channel in the Discord as well. I'll drop this 3rd one in there.
Thanks, Pete.
Great stuff.
Fun stuff as always, guys. Got a lot of drafting to do here over the next couple days.
Yeah, I think that Christmas slate, if people hadn't seen that yet, might have been pretty eye-opening to kind of see how those boards fall. It's actually a lot of fun. It's not a chore to draft at all. Get in there. It's a great one.
Beautiful. Yeah, let's wrap this one up, get our Christmas shopping, our drafts, all of that in order. Always love doing this show. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, become YouTube members if you want to get some of that sweet Nez solo stream there with the lo-fi beats and I don't know, a coffee pour, I guess. John, anything else you guys want to let the good people know about before we power down?
No, I mean, everybody have good, safe, fun holidays, and we got 5 shows banked below somewhere here from this week that are still relevant if you guys are getting prepped. Best of luck in the hoop streets tonight. It's a Jordan Poole revenge game for those who celebrate.
There you go. Yeah, we'll be back with a normal schedule next Friday there in between the holidays and get you ready for all the New Year's action. So we are off and on the clock for John, for Nez. I'm Pete. We'll see you guys next time.